Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Matthew Edgar, partner at Elementive, a Colorado-based consulting firm specializing in taking the complexity out of SEO and website performance. We'll learn about hidden technical issues that prevent Google from properly crawling and indexing websites, mistakes that cost businesses thousands in lost revenue. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thank you so much for having me here. Looking forward to talking with
You
you.
are well. You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Matthew. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll understand from him why Google isn't finding one's website. Why is it? What technical mistakes are killing your traffic? We'll learn all this. But before that, Matthew, let's learn a bit about your background, your journey, so that people know who they are listening to.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I'm a consultant and partner at Elementive. And at Elementive, we specialize in the technical side of SEO. So helping companies figure out, okay, what do you need to do technically to make sure that Google is able to crawl and index and understand all of your website's content. And increasingly, that's not just Google, that's also generative AI bots as well, making sure they can access your site, make sure they can extract all the content, learn all of that. So we've been running Elementive for the last 10 years, helping lots of different companies. Prior to that, I started actually my career as a programmer and developer building websites and actually working on the very technical side of how do you actually bring websites together, construct websites, and increasingly started to see the real value of figuring out, okay, how do you get the tech pieces right, and how does that influence and help SEO? And so for the last 10 years with Elementive, we've been able to really focus specifically on that and help companies understand, okay, how do you actually use the technology side of things to support what the marketing team is doing and what the SEO team is doing.
Absolutely. So, Matthew, to understand this, oh, why is Google doing this? Or is Google not doing this? The people who are making the websites, they are not, they do not know about it. Who is to be, you can say, where should the buck stop here?
Yeah, exactly. So when we're talking about, okay, why have things gone wrong? I think it's important to kind of step through and understand there's lots of reasons Google can't find your website, and there's lots of steps involved in that process. So one of the most fundamental steps is Google has to go and actually crawl your website. So they send out their bots, and those bots have to go and access the pages and actually fetch content from those pages. And so right away at that very foundational level, there's lots of things that can go wrong. There's things that can happen on Google's end where Google is simply unable to crawl the website. But more often than not, what's actually going on, what's happening is that there's something about the way the website is built or constructed that's preventing Google from being able to, reach the website. So that might be something in firewall settings where you're blocking bots or preventing bots from accessing it. There could be something with how the website is built and how the website is programmed. So a lot of JavaScript heavy websites like React websites, can run into this where Google tries to crawl the website. They try to get their bots there, but the bots are unable to do so. And so by changing your server settings, how things are set up, you can make sure that bots are able to crawl that way. By making sure that your website is built in a certain way, you're able to make sure that Google is able to actually go and fetch the pages on the website and actually see all that content on those pages. So right away at that foundational level, there are things that we can start to just look at step by step, what's actually happening, how are things actually working for Google, are things working, in the right way? Are they built in the right way where Google is going to actually be able to utilize this website? And I think if you start breaking that big question down of why isn't Google crawling my site or why isn't Google finding my site, break it down into smaller and smaller steps. I think it helps clarify where that problem actually is and what kinds of issues you need to address.
Absolutely. So let's understand it from common person's perspective, small businesses and whatnot. The thing is that, see, a small business, especially, or even a larger business, they get their website from either WordPress, Wix. A lot of businesses are on Shopify. There are hundreds of other players in this line,
Mhm.
and they know that, okay, I have done my work, I built my website, and that everything is so well presented by them. I've done my work. I will start getting traffic. A lot of things these people do. Where is that problem? Have I done something wrong? Or is it that these companies are not managing the back end wrong? What are they promising? Where is the problem? Or is Google then trying to, get my ad dollars in their pocket? So that is why they are not showing my website. Help us understand from that, because lots of small businesses, especially, they are not very technically sound. Bigger companies can still spend money and get a lot of. Moreover, a lot of these websites are, AI built websites. Now, if AI has built the website, then why is AI itself playing truant here? Help us understand from all those points of view from a common person's perspective.
Yeah, it's a great question because you're right. I mean, it's complex and it's so frustrating when you feel like, wait a minute, I'm using, a major platform like WordPress or something, and yet I'm not getting traffic from that. So if you take something like a WordPress site, I'll start there. Um, there's lots of different ways that a WordPress site can be built, lots of different ways that it can be customized and configured. And as a result, there's lots of ways that things can go wrong with that. So there's obviously a lot of factors that go into why Google chooses to rank certain websites or another. But from a technical standpoint, you can look at, okay, how's this website, built on here or not? How's this actually put together? With WordPress, one of the most common problems we see is that WordPress creates a lot of just unnecessary pages, just low quality pages. So there's like a bunch of taxonomy pages, extra tag pages, category pages, all this kind of stuff that brings down the overall site quality. And so you need to make sure that WordPress isn't generating those things. So that way it's not, making Google think that your site's actually lower quality than it is. Because if Google looks at your site and they see all these unnecessary pages, that's going to kind of outweigh everything else. Another problem I see, and this can happen a lot on any platform, WordPress, Wix, Shopify, any of them, is that you need to make sure that you have links going to all the pages on the website. This is one of those most foundational things, right? Google and other bots, they need to be able to find links that go from one page to another page to another page. And Google, for their part, kind of talks about different types of links. They have navigation links that are more supporting content, but what Google really pays attention to are main content links. So actual links that are inside the main text of the page. Those have to be relevant, highly related. The more of those links you have, helps in a lot of ways, but it helps technically because it just gets those links out there. And those links aren't always added by default within these platforms. Within these platforms, they'll go ahead and add navigation links or something, but they aren't necessarily adding the actual links that Google's going to pay attention to. So it's not enough to just say, oh, I have WordPress or I have Shopify or whatever. You really need to step through and make sure, okay, but is this platform creating unnecessary things that get in the way? Is this putting links in the right place where Google can actually go and find these? And getting back to something I said earlier too, I mean, is the page even built in a way that the bots can go through and crawl it? Especially on WordPress, a lot of really cool themes and designs exist that are completely inaccessible to bots. They look great, but bots can't work with them. There's too many animations or too many effects that just make crawling, by bots that much harder, and that's going to just cut everything down. So you have to go through and you have to look at, okay, within this platform, great, I have that. That's a good foundation, but then how do I customize that and check that, it's actually doing all the things that I needed to do. So that way Google can actually, work with this site and other bots can use this site.
Right. So, as a small business, as an individual freelancer, I get my website done. I give money to the partner from whichever place I've got. The website designer does that. The SEO expert does whatever he or she has to do, and then I disengage, thinking that the SEO will start working and the results will start coming. then why is it that I don't come to know about? Why doesn't Google Analytics tell me? Why doesn't the platform itself tell me? Because these are technical things. If it were something else related to, one thing or the other, I can still understand. But when it is about a technical thing, Matthew, then I should be told about it. Whose job is that to tell me? Or then, if I have to find out, then where do I find it? How regularly do I have to find it? And do I do business or keep on finding for problems and then the fixes? It means I need to keep a person all the time in my payrolls or whatever way contract, and get continue to look at my website. It's almost like a detective 24 hours for my website.
Right. You do need to kind of keep up the ongoing detective work, which I think is probably the best way to think about what SEO really is. SEO is just kind of that ongoing investigation into, okay, what's going on, right now? How are bots actually behaving? What are they looking at? And you're right. I mean, the tools that we have to understand that, are limited. And Google, for their part, they're not going to be completely upfront with everything they're finding. Certainly, new generative AI tools, Perplexity, ChatGPT, all of them, they're not, sharing any of that information so far in great detail. So we have to dig, and there's some resources that we can look at. I do recommend, looking at Google Search Console. Google Search Console, particularly under the page indexing report, and then also the crawl stats report gives you a really good insight into what is Google doing on the site? How is Google looking at things? What are they actually assessing on the different pages of the site? And then, by looking at those, you can kind of get a sense of, okay, they're paying attention to, these pages over here, or they're paying attention to this thing over here. Is that what I want them to pay attention to? Page indexing report gives you a good sense of some of those technical problems that come up. Oh, you have lots of not found errors that are found. Well, that's weird. Why are they finding those? Or we have lots of duplicate content, or lots of rendering problems sometimes can show up in there as well, where things are just kind of represented as Google can't understand this page. So that's a good way to help investigate things, and start looking at it. There's also some good crawl tools out there. Screaming Frog is the most popular, but there's others too that you can use. And what a crawl tool will do is it will go through and crawl your website and actually come back and tell you, okay, here's things I found that are wrong. And it crawls the website similar to what search bots are doing to crawl the site. So Screaming Frog is one that's probably the most popular. Another one I like, that is also priced well for smaller businesses, is Jet Octopus. And both of these, are ones you can run, on a monthly basis. Just check those reports. And while that's something you can absolutely hire somebody to do for you, I think even small business owner, if you just kind of get used to checking those reports, spend a little bit of time with those, you can get comfortable with at least the basics in those, and be able to find things that you can do to clean up the site. Okay, I have some new broken links that were added, or I have some new images that I need to correct, or whatever it is. Those tools will help you just continue to spot those problems, and know what you need to fix on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. So when do you come into the picture, Matthew? Is it and how is it the same thing as an SEO expert, or is it a different thing that you are talking about your kind of work?
Yeah, for me, I do specialize more in the technical areas. So I get involved maybe in other places than a typical SEO, consultant might, or somebody who's more focused on, say, the content side might get involved. So when technical SEO starts to become important, is anytime you're making really big changes to the site. So if you're about to do a redesign, or you're going to make a major overhaul to the site, there's a lot of technical implications that you need to think through with that and make sure they're done correctly. So that's something I do a lot with clients, is help them prepare for a redesign, make sure it goes correctly. Or if they didn't prepare correctly and something went wrong, I help them figure out why and what they need to do to recover. Also, the more busy your website, the more complex your website, the more you probably need to be regularly checking in on tech issues. So for clients, I help them in some cases on a monthly basis, other times quarterly, to just kind of help keep an eye on those things. So like e-commerce sites, products are coming and going. It's very active, very busy websites. A lot of things that get very complex about that. You need to make sure that those things are handled, correctly on there. The other place I would say that it's good to get thinking about technical SEO, and start figuring out, okay, are there technical problems here? Is when traffic drops. If you suddenly start to see, okay, my traffic is declining, what's going on here? This isn't working correctly. There's lots of reasons why traffic can be dropping. Sometimes it's a technical issue. Sometimes it has nothing to do with technical issues. But it's good to get a look at that and make sure that, okay, what's going on here? Is there a problem that I need to address or not? And so I help clients out with that, from simple reviews to full audits and kind of everything in between, just to make sure, okay, is there something here? Is there a technical problem behind the traffic drop, or not? If there is, what is that? What do we need to do? But if it's not, then at least we can rule that out. So we know that, okay, focus on content, focus on links, focus on something else instead.
Absolutely. There's much to learn from you, Matthew, and I'm sure people can learn from your books also. Tech SEO Guide, and also you have got the Speed Masters Metrics Guide. Tell us about these books. Who are these books for? Is it again for those people who are facing these problems, or is it for more technical type of people?
I really wrote the books for a broad audience. So it will work for people who are more technically minded. So if you're a developer, designer, absolutely these books will, hopefully be a good resource for you. But I wrote them, not assuming any, technical, know-how, any, background in development, none of that. Really with the small business owner in mind to say, okay, here's things you need to know. Here's things you need to understand. Tech SEO guide, I go through and talk about different questions, different situations that you might find yourself in. Really, just trying to explain all the various concepts and some of the more nuanced and tricky aspects of technical SEO. Really, intending it as a reference that you can just pick up, answer a few questions as you go through. Speed metrics guide, speed gets really involved, really complex, but the fundamental part that I think everybody needs to understand about speed is how to measure it, what the numbers actually mean, what they're telling you. And that's what in speed metrics guide I really stepped through and just explained, okay, when you see something like time to first byte or first contentful paint or whatever number, what does that actually mean? Not at a deep technical level, but if you're a small business owner, don't really understand the technical pieces behind it, that's okay. But you still need to have a concept of, what do these terms mean? And if I see something like this, should I worry? Should I be concerned? And that's really what the focus of that book was, is to help people try and understand that. Where do you actually need to be worried about a particular problem? Where do you need to just kind of go, okay, I know what that is, but I can set that aside for right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. As I said, there is so much to learn from you about all this, and I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of small businesses would want to connect with you, learn more all about this, and get the traffic, the real traffic, get onto their, real places. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me, you can email me directly, matthew@elementive.com. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So if you want to find me there and follow or connect, that's great too.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.